Welcome to a journey through history, where we uncover one of humanity's greatest alliances, horses in warfare. From ancient battlefields to medieval knights and even modern warfare tactics, horses have shaped our victories and losses in ways you won't believe. Why were they so crucial? How did they help civilizations rise and fall? Stay tuned to discover the secrets of our four-legged warriors, their incredible speed, strength, and loyalty, and how they forever changed the course of human history. Trust me, you don't want to miss this epic ride. The fascinating journey of horses in warfare begins around 4000 to 3000 BC in the expansive Eurasian steppes, covering what is now Ukraine, Hungary, and Romania. After humans domesticated these magnificent creatures, they settled in fortified towns, guarding themselves against swift horseback-riding raiders. These nomadic riders not only executed rapid strikes, but also played a pivotal role in spreading Indo-European languages as they conquered other groups. Fast forward to around 2500 BC, where we find one of the earliest depictions of horses in battle. This image comes from the war panel of the Standard of Ur in ancient Sumer, showcasing a wagon pulled by horses or perhaps mules, highlighting the integration of horses into organized warfare. By 2000 BC, chariot warfare emerged, evidenced by burial sites in Russia and Kazakhstan. The Hittites became renowned for their chariotry, employing these powerful vehicles in battle. The chariot's influence spread across Eurasia, often paired with the innovative composite bow, a game-changer introduced around 1600 BC. As chariot designs improved, they became essential tools for civilizations from China to Egypt, altering the face of warfare. The Hyksos were instrumental in introducing chariots to Egypt in the 16th century BC, leading to rapid adoption by the Egyptians. The oldest known text on training war horses is a Hittite manual called Kikuli. Chariots also made their mark in Minoan Crete, and they were used in China from the Shang dynasty through to the 2nd century BC. In ancient Greece and Rome, chariots primarily served to transport warriors rather than for direct combat. However, Julius Caesar noted that during his invasion of Britain, British charioteers used their vehicles effectively to throw javelins before dismounting for ground combat. Now, let's delve into the cavalry. Some of the earliest records of horses in warfare involved mounted archers and javelin throwers, notably during the reigns of Assyrian rulers like Ashur-nasirpal II and Shalmaneser III. These early riders sat far back on their horses, which limited their mobility. Their horses were often held by handlers on the ground, transforming them into a sort of mounted infantry rather than true cavalry. In response to threats from nomadic invaders like the Cimmerians in the 8th century BC, the Assyrians developed specialized cavalry units. By the reign of Ashurbanipal in 669 BC, they had adopted a forward-sitting style, paving the way for the effective light cavalry we recognize today. The ancient Greeks utilized light horse scouts alongside heavier cavalry, though not extensively due to the high costs associated with horse maintenance. Heavy cavalry's roots trace back to the ancient Persians, who under King Darius armored their horses and riders, creating formidable cataphracts that played crucial roles in Persian military tactics for centuries. In Greece, Philip of Macedon revolutionized cavalry tactics with massed charges, and his son, Alexander the Great, led one of history's most legendary heavy cavalry units. Meanwhile, during China's Warring States period, cavalry began to rise as a powerful force against rival states. The Han Dynasty perfected mounted units to defend against northern and western nomadic raiders. As the Roman Empire grew, heavy cavalry began to feature more prominently, though the Republic initially relied heavily on infantry forces. Now, let's talk about horse artillery. The invention of gunpowder brought about a new role for horses as they became essential draft animals for heavy artillery. These powerful animals pulled large cannons and field artillery, with each piece requiring anywhere from 6 to 12 horses depending on its size. An artillery battery with 6 guns could demand up to 200 horses to operate, showcasing the monumental logistics involved. In Central Asia, the dynamic between steppe nomads and settled civilizations often revolved around conflict. With their unmatched mobility, nomadic cavalry emerged as some of the world's most powerful military forces. However, their strength was often limited by tribal divisions. When unified under strong leadership, these tribes became formidable. The Huns, under the leadership of Attila, executed extensive campaigns across Europe, while the Mongols conquered vast stretches of Eurasia, demonstrating the power of unified cavalry forces. Similarly, in South Asia, horses played a crucial role in warfare. Ancient Indian texts like the Puranas recount invasions by horse-mounted nomads known as the Five Hordes, who seized control of the kingdom of Ayodhya around 1600 BC. The Mahabharata highlights the breeding of war horses in regions such as Sindhu and Cambodia, celebrating expert horsemen from the Kambojas, Gandharas, and Yavanas. India is credited with developing the early toe-loop stirrup as early as 500 BC, a technological advancement that significantly impacted mounted warfare. Throughout history, Indian cavalry commanded both fear and respect. Gandharian mercenaries from the Indian subcontinent served in the Persian army under Xerxes I during his campaigns against the Greeks. Later, the men of the mountain land fought alongside Darius III against Alexander the Great, while the Assakanoi forces, numbering around 20,000 cavalry, battled Alexander during his invasion of India. During the Mughal period, cavalry remained a cornerstone of military power. While the Mughals gradually adopted gunpowder weapons, they were initially slow to abandon traditional composite bows. In response to European military successes in India, some Indian rulers embraced European cavalry tactics, such as massed charges, while others resisted these changes. By the 18th century, Indian armies continued to rely heavily on cavalry, particularly of the heavy variety, evolving alongside the new influences entering the region. Let's dive deep into the fascinating evolution of cavalry in East Asia, where the journey began with the Chinese and their use of chariots in horse-based warfare. Picture this. During the intense Warring States period, which spanned from 402 to 221 BC, a significant transformation occurred as light cavalry forces emerged, gaining traction on the battlefield. This shift was championed by none other than Wu Ling around 320 BC, who advocated for a move to horseback riding. However, this wasn't without resistance. Traditionalists often scoffed at the idea, viewing cavalry as less prestigious compared to the noble-dominated military branches of medieval Europe. Fast forward to the reign of Emperor Wu of Han, where records reveal a staggering military force of 300,000 government-owned horses. Yet, despite this impressive number, it became clear that these horses were insufficient to meet the cavalry and baggage train demands necessary to confront the Xiongnu nomads in regions like the Ordos and Gobi deserts. This crisis prompted innovative policies encouraging households to contribute privately bred horses in exchange for military and labor exemptions, showcasing a remarkable adaptation in wartime strategies. Now, Let's jet over to Japan, where the legendary samurai warriors were masters of cavalry warfare. They became renowned for their prowess in horseback archery, with training methods like yabusame, originating around 530 AD, taking center stage, especially during the Kamakura period under Minamoto no Yoritomo. However, the focus gradually shifted from mounted archers to mounted spearmen during the tumultuous Sengoku period. This evolution highlights not just a change in tactics, but also the adaptability of Japanese military strategies in response to shifting battlefield dynamics. Turning our gaze to the Middle East, the rise of various Islamic empires marked a monumental era for cavalry. These armies were composed of a colorful tapestry of local fighters, mercenaries, and the skilled Turkoman tribesmen, famed for their lancing and archery expertise. By the 9th century, the Mamluks, slaves transformed into soldiers, became pivotal, creating a highly efficient cavalry force thanks to their advanced horse breeding techniques and detailed training manuals. This rich tradition continued with the Turkish tribes that laid the foundations of the Ottoman Empire, giving rise to the Sipahi, a class of cavalry soldiers rewarded with land for their military service. Imagine this: following Muhammad's Hijra, in 622 AD, Muslim mounted warriors swiftly conquered North Africa and the Iberian Peninsula. Their influence expanded across the Middle East and into western North Africa, reaching Spain by 711 AD. The Muslim cavalry, riding various breeds such as the North African Barb and Turkoman horse, seized control of most of the Iberian Peninsula. Their relentless advance into France was halted at the iconic Battle of Tours, where the formidable Frankish leader, Charles Martel, successfully checked their northern expansion. As we journey through the Middle Ages in Europe, we see a categorization of war horses into three main types: the destrier, courser, and rouncy. Each horse served its purpose in the heat of battle, but the term charger often encompassed all medieval war horses. Typically, these steeds stood no taller than 15.2 hands, as larger heavy horses posed maintenance challenges and lacked versatility across diverse terrains. Early destriers were slightly larger than coursers and rouncies, accommodating the needs of heavily armored knights. As knights faced formidable foes like the Lombards, the demand for larger horses grew, and over time, armor became heavier, leading to increased horse sizes by the late Middle Ages, with some skeletons surpassing 15 hands. Interestingly, stallions were often preferred as destriers due to their natural aggression. However, mares were favored by the Moors for their quieter demeanor, ideal for stealthy approaches. The Teutonic Knights, on the other hand, employed geldings, also known as monk horses, as they had the added advantage of preserving their superior stock by not improving local breeding if captured. While the heavy cavalry charge could be a game-changer, it wasn't a frequent tactic due to the terrain's influence on battle conditions. By the late 14th century, it became more common for knights to dismount and engage in ground combat, with their steeds waiting for pursuit. The early Middle Ages predominantly involved sieges, but as time progressed, mounted raids known as chevauchés became more common, featuring lightly armed riders on swift horses. These war horses also played a critical role in hasteludes, martial games like jousting that began in the 11th century, serving both as a sport and vital training for battle. As the knightly role faced challenges from evolving military structures and economic factors, their decline wasn't solely tied to new technology. Some historians argue that advancements like gunpowder and the English longbow didn't make knights obsolete. Rather, they facilitated the evolution of the knightly role itself, with armor adapting to withstand various projectiles. From the 14th century onwards, Most plate armor was crafted from hardened steel, designed to resist early musket fire while remaining lighter than previous versions. As warfare transitioned to infantry-focused battles between 1300 and 1550, enhanced infantry tactics and weaponry emerged, ultimately leading to the rise of a professional, combined arms army model by the 16th century. This model emphasized training and paid contracts, moving away from the ransom and pillaging methods that had previously funded knights. Shifting to the early modern period, a notable transformation occurred in cavalry forces, signaling a transition from heavily armored knights to lighter, more agile troops like hussars and chasseurs à cheval. This evolution improved battlefield communication, with light cavalry utilizing their nimbleness to traverse quickly across the terrain. As infantry weaponry advanced, the balance began tilting toward foot soldiers, especially with the introduction of the musket bayonet that replaced the unwieldy pike. During the Elizabethan era, we see the emergence of diverse mounted units. Some were heavily armored cuirassiers armed with lances, while others represented the lighter cavalry that sported mail and wielded pistols and petronels, an early carbine. By the 19th century, the distinction between heavy and light cavalry blurred significantly. Following the Peninsular War, heavy cavalry found themselves performing scouting and outpost duties traditionally reserved for their lighter counterparts. Most armies favored horses around 15.2 hands tall and weighing between 990 to 1,100 pounds. While heavier horses suited the cuirassiers, lighter mounts were preferred for scouting missions. Amid the upheaval of the French Revolutionary Wars and the Napoleonic Wars, cavalry primarily operated as shock troops, transitioning from offensive maneuvers to flanking tactics against enemy infantry. Typically, cavalry would initiate charges, opening opportunities for infantry assaults to follow suit. These mounted charges were executed with precision, maintaining a speed of around 20 kilometers per hour to preserve formations and prevent fatigue. In the heart of Sub-Saharan Africa, horses have wielded immense influence in warfare since the 9th century, becoming assets second only to slaves. Picture the 11th century under the Almoravid dynasty, where the thunder of hooves resonated across the battlefield in West Africa. As larger horse breeds emerged alongside the innovation of saddles and stirrups, cavalry tactics underwent a revolutionary transformation. This newfound mobility empowered empires like Oyo, while Islamic states like the Bornu Empire harnessed cavalry to expand their dominions. Yet, these majestic creatures faced relentless challenges: harsh climates, diseases, and rugged terrains. But their significance remained unwavering, fueling conflicts such as the intense clashes between the Herero and Nama people in 19th century Namibia. The intertwining of the African slave trade with horse imports saw a decline in mounted warfare as the demand for war horses dwindled with the decline of slaving practices. Fast forward to the late 19th century, when modern firearms began to emerge during the scramble for Africa. Horses lost their battlefield prominence, yet they played pivotal roles in the Second Boer War. British forces relied on cavalry amidst the chaos of innovative Boer tactics. However, the harsh terrain took a toll on British steeds, prompting a shift towards resilient breeds like the Basuto ponies and Australian Whalers. Now, let's shift our focus across the Atlantic to the Americas, where horses had been absent for nearly 10,000 years until the Spanish conquistadors arrived in the early 16th century. This gap left indigenous peoples without effective technologies to counter the European cavalry's might, contributing significantly to the fall of empires like the Aztecs and Incas. Imagine the power dynamics as cavalry charges rolled across the plains, giving European forces an undeniable advantage. However, in mountainous regions, the Incas' sophisticated road system allowed for swift Spanish assaults during sieges, highlighting the unique tactical advantages both sides possessed. Yet, adaptability was key. Indigenous peoples in South America quickly embraced horseback riding, with the Mapuche of Chile leading cavalry charges in the Arauco War by 1586, ultimately expelling the Spanish from Araucanía. In North America, tribes like the Comanche and Cheyenne transformed into formidable mounted warriors, especially in their confrontations against the United States Army during the 19th century. The American Revolutionary War predominantly saw infantry taking center stage, with cavalry playing a minor role until the establishment of designated cavalry regiments in 1855. These units adopted tactics that evolved through encounters in the Mexican War and engagements with indigenous groups. Cavalry's importance peaked during the American Civil War, where it became essential for military mobility. Horses and mules carried artillery, while the cavalry units were critical in battlefield maneuvers. The early advantage of Confederate cavalry was significant, but the Union cavalry's standout performance at the Battle of Brandy Station in 1863 marked a turning point, paving the way for Union dominance. The surrender terms at Appomattox showcased this legacy, allowing Confederate cavalrymen to take their horses home, a poignant contrast to their Union counterparts. As the 20th century dawned, the role of horses in warfare began to fade. World War I marked a monumental shift. Traditional cavalry tactics became obsolete amidst trench warfare, machine guns, and barbed wire. However, cavalry skirmishes still occurred, particularly on the Eastern Front, where their adaptability proved vital. British Empire cavalry showcased remarkable versatility, transitioning seamlessly from mounted combat to foot soldiers. Even as mechanized warfare surged, horses remained indispensable, often serving as pack animals to transport vital supplies to the front lines. This need led to a staggering demand for horse fodder, emphasizing their critical role in logistics. In World War II, the use of horses persisted. The Polish army infamously deployed mounted infantry against the Nazi invasion in 1939. Both German and Soviet forces maintained cavalry units, particularly on the Eastern Front, as the challenging terrains necessitated their utility. The British Army made use of horses early in the conflict, while the only active American cavalry unit, the 26th Cavalry, famously defended against Japanese forces in the Philippines. Even towards the war's end, horses played a vital role in troop and supply transport. The German army, grappling with shortages of motorized vehicles, relied heavily on horses, over 2.75 million, in fact. This reliance echoed the past, reminding us of the pivotal role horses had once played in warfare. Today, the military's relationship with horses has transformed dramatically. While traditional mounted cavalry units have mostly vanished, horses are now used in exhibitions, historical reenactments, and law enforcement. Modern military forces may still utilize horseback units for specific reconnaissance missions or ceremonial duties, adapting their roles to fit contemporary needs. The enduring legacy of horses in military contexts is evident even in today's modern warfare. One of the most fascinating examples is the U.S. military's use of horses in the rugged terrains of northern Afghanistan during Operation Enduring Freedom. Imagine soldiers riding into battle on horseback, marking the first such engagement since World War II. As we wrap up this captivating journey through the history of horses in warfare, we can't overlook the last fully operational horse-mounted regiment in the world, the Indian Army's 61st Cavalry, testament to the deep-rooted legacy of horses in military traditions. In this dynamic blend of history, strategy, and adaptation, the story of horses in warfare reveals not just their significance in battle, but their enduring spirit in the fabric of our military heritage. Let's continue exploring how these majestic creatures shaped the world, ensuring their legacy rides on into the future. As we wrap up our exploration of the incredible journey of horses in warfare, we invite you to join the conversation. What surprised you the most about the role of horses in different cultures and conflicts? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your insights. If you enjoyed this video and found it informative, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more captivating content. Your support helps us create even more exciting videos, so spread the word and share this with your friends who are just as passionate about history as you are. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to uncover the fascinating stories that shape our world. Thank you for watching, and we can't wait to see you in our next adventure.